really felt the need to just share with you 1 week's journey with the Lord. But before I could start the 1 week journey, I had to realize there's been a longer journey than that was leading up to this. And most of you know, if not all of you know, that the last 2 years have been one of probably the hardest 2 years of our lives. You know, I said it a million times, but it's worth repeating. There's one thing to say, I trust God, or I have faith in God. But if you never have to exercise that trust or that faith, you really don't know if you're really having faith or trust. And I can remember about a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months ago, I don't know if you even remember, Tom, you said these words to me. He come up to me, he said, Brother Scott, God want me to tell you that you need to begin to forgive these people and quit holding a grudge. I was like, what the heck is he talking about? I said, but God, I don't understand. I've already forgiven them. But see, what happens, I think, in life is when we think we forgive them, sometimes we just brush things underneath the carpet. We just hide them, or we put them out of eyesight, and it's done, right? But it's not. And so I really took heart to what he said. I started saying, God, if there's something that I haven't done or forgiven, and that what I realized is that I haven't, because if I had, it wouldn't keep bothering me. Makes sense. So I started to work on that. And to my amazement, it's amazing what happens when you truly begin to forgive people, especially those that have hurt you, or your family, or whatever. It's such freedom. And I say all that leading into this past week. And Saturday night we were in Erie with one of my pastor friends, just having a time of fellowship and everything, and everything was going great. Then we started the journey home, and I get heartburn and acid reflux quite often, actually, maybe 4 or 5 times a week. And as I started driving home, I had this incredible chest pain from shoulder straight across the shoulder, and on a scale of 1 to 10, it's probably like around a 6. But if you know me long enough, you know that in a lot of things in life, I'm stubborn as a mule. I am not pulling over and letting my wife drive. I'm just going to drive home an hour. And I noticed that she kept asking me, are you okay? Well, sure, I'm okay. But see, God was already speaking to her. God was already speaking to her that something wasn't okay. And we got all kinds of things going on this morning. But God was speaking to her, hey, something's wrong with your husband. So I drove all the way home, still having these incredible chest pains. And my wife asked me, are you going to go to bed? And I'm like, no, I got some heartburn. I'm just going to sit up. Because I always go downstairs and sit in a chair because it just feels better. And so she's like, all right. And I'm sitting there with these chest pains. I'm like, and I didn't know what to think. I'm like, God, these things got to go. And he just stayed and stayed. And I'm too stubborn to say, hey, honey, I'm having chest pain. Maybe we should go to the hospital. I'm just not going to do that. And so all night this went on. And finally around 3:30 in the morning, I finally go upstairs and lay down. And I lay down. I'm on the side, I lay on my side, but I lay on my back and say, God, may these chest pains go away. And then I fall asleep and I wake up at 5:30, because that's what time I always wake up. And I just get up, and the constant chest pain's gone, but every time I move, I get another stabbing pain in my chest. And so I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm like, man, that won't stop. I mean, I took Tums and nothing's helping. And so what happened was I finally get my wife up at 7:30, because sometimes she gets up on Sundays, and she says, what's wrong with you? Nothing's wrong with me. She said, yeah, but you weren't in bed last night. Something happened. What's wrong? And I knew if I tell her I have chest pain, we're going to the hospital. But I know I can't lie to her either, so I was like, oh yeah, like real bad heartburn. Because that's what I thought it was. She says, well, how bad was it? I said, well, this went from shoulder to shoulder. She says, how long did you have? I said, oh, none. She said, how do you feel now? I said, I feel very nauseated, and I feel, and I don't feel myself, I'm very tired, but I only got 2 hours of sleep. And so I knew what she was going to do, and sure enough, she makes some phone calls and calls her dad, because her dad had blockages and 5 bypass surgeries, and the 5 bypass surgery, and all kind of heart issues. And he said, well, what kind of symptoms does he have? And he said, what did he tell you? He said, you need to get him to the ER because it doesn't sound good. And me being so submissive and everything, I said, well, I'm going to go to church. And I says, if the symptoms don't stop, we'll go to the ER after church. Well, announced to me, she's texting the pastor friend in Erie, which we just came from, because he's the one who had a heart attack and died and came back. Who's now freed from the doctor to run and do everything he wants to do. And so texted him and his wife to be in prayer and asked him. And so when my phone went off last Sunday morning, guess who it was calling me? He goes, Scott, where are you? I said, well, I'm at church. He goes, what are you doing at church? I says, it's service time, brother. He said, what's going on with your heart? What's going on? So I told him the story. He said this to me. He said, well, what time? And I says, well, for about 8:15, past 3 o'clock in the morning. He says, God woke me up and said, you need to start interceding because somebody's having chest pains. But this is the clincher. And I believe my brother because he has spoken a lot of things and I've known to be pretty accurate. He said this to me. He says, but then I had a war against a death angel who was coming after that person. And so we talk some more. We're just right out there in the foyer. We're just talking, and he says, God says, now I know that was for you. He said the enemy was coming to take your life. Well, I was still having chest pains when I would move certain ways, and I came back into service, because here's what I told him. I said, brother, I says, I'm self-employed, so if I don't work, I don't get paid. So I said, God's going to have to do something incredible because I cannot go without pay. And here's what I said, if I go to the hospital, I know what they're going to do. They're going to keep me. And then I know what they're going to do. They're going to find a blockage in my heart because I know I have one. And I says, and then I'm off for 30 days. And I can't afford that. And here's what he said. He says, you do what you feel God's telling you to do, but I'm telling you that I think you need to go to the hospital. So I just started to worship God, and I sat down next to Tom and says, hey Tom, pray with me. He said, what about? And I told him, I said, I'm having some chest issues here. He said, get to the hospital. I'm still not convinced that's the plan of God. Have everybody tell me if I'm not convinced I'm supposed to go. Because I know what they're going to do. So I promised my wife that if I still had a symptom after church, I would go. I'd let her take me. And so we go to the hospital, and and of course they rush you in and they put you in all the monitors and everything. And let me back up. Right towards the end of service, Rose gets up and she says, and she doesn't know what's going on, because I didn't tell nobody. She says, hey, I have a word for you and Lord. I want to pray with you. And the whole church gathered around us and started praying. And I don't know, she starts praying for our healing. We needed a physical healing. She doesn't even know that what's going on. And she starts praying over this. And the whole church starts praying. I believe that's the first miracle. That's the second miracle, because the first one was my pastor friend was praying and interceding for me, that was able to keep me alive through the night. Maybe that was the second miracle. The first miracle was God overlooked my stubbornness and got me home safely. When my wife should have been driving me to the hospital, that's just heartburn. See, it ain't good to be stubborn. But I thank God for my wife who was sensitive to God, and even though she maybe didn't make me stop and let her drive, she was still interceding and praying, even though she didn't know what for, because I didn't tell her. But see, here's the thing. When God speaks to you, even when it sounds something crazy, because when God was telling her, hey, pray for his heart, that didn't make sense, because I wasn't complaining about any heart issues. When God woke up my pastor friend at 3 in the morning and said, hey, I don't want you sleeping no more, I want you interceding. That didn't make sense, because he didn't have a name. And he was willing to sacrifice his sleep for somebody he didn't even know at the time, interceding for a heart problem, interceding for the name, the death angel coming after them. He didn't even know who he was praying for, but he was willing to lose sleep over it. And intercede and pray. See, I've already experienced several miracles and didn't even know it. So I'm at the ER and we're having a good time, just joking around and laughing and they do the EKG, and guess what it come back showing? Nothing. I was like, that's kind of weird, because I'm still having those little pains. They do the blood work, because if you have a heart attack, your body produces an enzyme. And he said, well, when did this start? I said, well, last night. He said, well, what time? I said, well, about 8:15. He said, well, why'd you wait so long for? Because I'm a man. And that's what we do. We're just stubborn at times. And he said, well, actually, that's kind of good, because that is the enzymes will definitely be in your blood then, because it does take a couple hours to have them show up. So they do the blood work, and guess what it is? Nothing. And they have the little oxygen thing on my finger, and usually if there's any blockages, it can't be 100%. Guess what mine is? 100%. And everything's normal. Blood pressure, everything's normal. No explanations, but everything's normal. And they send me home. And I'm exhausted, so I just tell Lord, I'm just going to sleep. So I fall asleep on the couch all afternoon. And in the middle of falling asleep, God speaks to me something silly. It's going to be silly to you, but to me, it was big. Here's what he said. If you change your diet, I'll heal you completely. Now, all of you know that sugar is the main course of my diet. That's just the truth. It's nothing for me to eat a whole carton of ice cream in one sitting. It's nothing. It's not a big deal. It's nothing for, you know what I mean. It's nothing for me to eat, candy, cookies, anything, all the time. And God said, if you change your diet, I will heal you completely. I'm like, God, but I can't change my diet because I'm not strong enough to quit. It's an addiction. And that was the end of the conversation. I wake up, and my son's, Aaron's birthday was on Friday, so we had cheesecake left over, so we ate some supper, and let's go right into dessert. I mean, isn't that what we should do. And I had a small piece of cheesecake, at least to my standards, because it was like 2 bites. And so I went back for a second bite, or a second one, and the Lord goes, what are you doing? I said, I'm going to get another piece. And she says, no, you're not. One's enough. And then I remembered what I just had that thing from the Lord. And so I said, you're right, I don't need another piece. And I'm still having these chest pains, though, once in a while. I get up to go to work on Monday because I'm not about to just stay home. When one thing that about me is I don't miss work for anything. I mean, if I can walk, I'm going. And so I'm on my way to work, and I'm still having these chest things. I can't understand why I'm still having them when everything's gone back normal. When I knew that something happened on Saturday night going into Sunday morning, I knew it was more than stress. It wasn't a stress attack. It wasn't anxiety. It wasn't gas. It wasn't anything. I know what it was. And I really believe in my heart that I really was having a heart attack, but God said, not yet. It's not time for me. And I'm telling you, Monday morning, I'm going on the way to work, and a contractor I work with calls me up and says, hey, before you get here, I need you to get some sandpaper for this project we're going to do. And this was a common thing. He said, and pick up some chocolate for us for the day. Which meant get 2 bags. I'm serious. I'm like, all right, I'll do that. So I go to Trader Horn, and I get the sandpaper, and I get the bags of chocolate. And God's like, what are you doing? So I'm getting the chocolate. And I remembered again this conversation I had with God when I was sleeping. And then I put those bags down. And it's got 2 candy bars. I figured 2 bags, 2 candy bars is a big reduction. But I said, no, I won't do it. And I go over to the job site, and I hand him his sandpaper, I hand him his chocolate. He goes, hey, what you only get 2 candy bars for? He said, I told you we get some chocolate for today. I says, because I ain't eating it no more. He looked at me and he's like, what are you talking about? And I told him the story about how I was having chest pains and all that stuff. I said, I ain't eating it no more. And he starts to, ooh, this is so good. He starts teasing me with it. And man, tell you, it smelled good. It looked good. And I says, I ain't eating it no more. I can tell you exactly what time it was. It was 8:30 Monday morning. You know how I know that? Because as soon as I said, I ain't eating it no more, God took away every chest pain from that point. He took it away from me. I haven't had a chest pain since Monday at 8:30 in the morning. And I says, God, that is awesome. I don't need it anymore. And what I began to understand and realize is I finally realized I had a breakthrough in my life, not only through addiction with sugar, but I also had a breakthrough in my life with holding grudges against some of these people and situations that have come past in these last 2 years. But see, the enemy's not stupid. He's a pretty smart guy in the essence that he knows where your weakness is, and he's going to keep hitting your weakness until it's no longer a weakness. So, Tuesday, or Monday night, I come home, and I eat and no dessert. There's ice cream in the freezer, or sorbet, or something. There's 2 cookies call my name in the cabinet. There's ho-hos in the other cabinet. And I didn't want none of them. That's a miracle. That's huge. Well, I have to go to the doctor's on Monday. I only go there every 7 years, and that's the truth. I I go in and the receptionist says, what are you here? I says, you haven't been here for a long time. I said, I'm here early. According to my record, I said, I had 3 more years. I said, but I'm here because I'm supposed to be here because I have to follow up with ER. And so the doctor comes in. You know what he says? What do you want me to do for you? That kind of got me a little bit frustrated. I says, I don't even want to be here. I said, if it wasn't for my wife, I wouldn't be here. And I said, so I'm just here because I'm supposed to be here because the ER told me I have to come. And so he said, well, what did they say? What did they do? What was the results? And I told him, it was okay. I checked my heart and said, all right, sounds good. And Lord goes, well, don't you think you should have a stress test? And he's like, okay, I'll give you one. And she says, well, don't you think you should check his cholesterol? Because 4 years ago when I went, it was high. And he said, I need to lose something crazy, like 10 pounds, and change my diet. That didn't happen. I gained 5, and my diet got worse. So I was a little bit nervous when she said, get the cholesterol checked, because I already know what that was going to be. Off the charts or close to it. Cholesterol. I don't do good with pills. I always forget to take them. And here's what happened though. I agreed. Went to the hospital the next morning. Got my cholesterol checked. And guess what it was? Normal. That's impossible. Except for God. So the first thing I do, because the guy I work with, his wife is always harassing her husband and myself about our eating habits and saying our cholesterol is going to be sky high. And I always tell her, this is my ice cream sugar diet, and it's proven to work. So the first thing I call him up and says, you tell your wife, look, my diet works. And I said, but really need to tell her that it was all God. But see, all of a sudden God began to give me a testimony of how awesome He is. Now look, I got to be honest with you. I'm on cloud 9 and I'm sharing this message with everybody I run into, and I get a phone call. Because see, remember, 2 months ago, he was saying, hey, I want you to begin to really forgive these people. I get a phone call from one of them accusing me of something I did not do. I was like, come on, are you serious? And here's how I know that this is a breakthrough. When I got off the phone, I told my wife, she said, what on earth is that? I said, it's just another attack from the enemy trying to see if he can't get that weakness to stay weak. And I'm going to tell you something. It would have bothered me for weeks, but guess what? It doesn't matter. God has actually set me free from that. It's not that's like miracle 7 or 8. And see, some of these miracles may not sound like a lot to you, but to me, they were the very things that were stealing my joy, my peace. It was the very things that was stealing the anointing from my life. And I've been praying for God to just, God, I remember years ago that God was using me in such an anointed and powerful way. And what happens is I allow all these things and circumstances and situations to steal all that away from me without even realizing it. And I was like, God, I started repenting. And I realized that God was just saying, all right, look, we're going to see how well you're doing with all this, and let the enemy have that phone call go through. And this gentleman said to me, you need to call your presbyter because you're not allowed to do that. So I called him up, and guess what the presbyter says? Scott, you're doing all right. It's all right. Don't worry about it. I was like, what the world? See, the enemy always wants to steal your joy. He always wants to steal your peace. He always wants to steal your momentum. Just as you think that you're getting over the hurdle or through the next challenge or the next impossibility, the enemy's right there trying to give it back to you. So we all know what's coming up. It's Thanksgiving. That says, God, now come on now, Thanksgiving. I mean, you know how diets work on Thanksgiving. We break them. Right? So I go to Thanksgiving with this notion that, God, you're going to have to really help me with this. And that says, God, you know pecan pie is my weakness. And guess what wasn't there? No pecan pie, praise the Lord. Guess which pie I hate the most?
You don't hate pumpkin pie.
I don't. I do. I hate it. And guess which one was there? Isn't God awesome? And then there's another pie. There's lemon meringue pie there. I'm like, that doesn't look too bad. It's still pie, and there's still sugar in there, praise God. But you know what? After I ate dinner, I didn't want none. I didn't want nothing. It's just like ice cream in the freezer because she knows I will eat her ice cream for her. I didn't want none. None. I made it through Thanksgiving with no dessert. I've made it from Sunday night with no desserts, no candy, no cookies, no candy bars, no anything. That's a miracle. So yesterday, we get word that her brother's coming up from him and his fiance's coming up from Pittsburgh and wants to have a dinner with us. And so now we're going to have a second Thanksgiving dinner. And so I take my wife and we have to get some stuff for it. And we go to Aldi's and they have pecan pie on sale. And I pick it up. And I turn it over, and it's like 40 grams of cholesterol or milligrams or something. Like, holy cow. That's a lie?
That's not high.
Oh.
I think it's like 280 or something like that.
Whoa.
Yeah, 40's low.
Well, if I'd known that, brother, I went back and got it.
Top bar, total fat. That's the one you got to worry about.
Oh. I put it down. I said, I don't want it. Don't want it. They have peppermint ice cream there. Bought it.
Yeah.
For the kids. It's true. And then my wife bought a Dutch apple pie with a cheesecake bottom.
No, that's not.
You know how many of those things I had yesterday? I didn't have a desire for any of it. I'm telling you, God, I go back to the things that God's been showing me about. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Trust in Him. Trust in Him. Stand on His promises. He promised me if I changed my diet, He was going to heal me. Monday morning was the first test if I was going to hold up my end of the deal. Because I think if I would have ate that candy, I can guarantee you my cholesterol would have been normal. I know that in my heart, I know there's blockages there. I knew there was. Because looking back, see, when you're in the middle of it, you don't really know. But when you look back and you see the piece from this puzzle, and the piece from that puzzle, and the piece from this one, and then you put all these pieces together, then it all makes sense. But see, I was always tired. You know, my wife will tell you, I was tired. I wake up tired. Go to sleep tired. Man, ever since this episode, I wake up 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 5:30, wide awake, ready to go. That ain't normal. Hey, sometimes I want to take a nap during the day. That's normal no matter what. I like taking naps. But I have more energy than I ever had. That's impossible. I feel healthier. I feel like a weight has lifted off of my shoulders, like I've been carrying around all that bitterness, all that frustration, all that stuff has been lifted off. And I feel so much lighter. I feel so much healthier. I feel so much better. And I can tell you to this day, last night everybody's eating their pie, cheesecake, ice cream right in front of me, and I'm just like, that doesn't even really look all that appealing to me right now. It would have last week, but it didn't look appealing. And my one son had a piece of that pie, and he left like some debris on the fork. So I'm not going to try that. And I just licked the fork. I mean, that's kind of nasty. God has actually taken those desires from my mouth. This is how crazy it is. We went to Aldi's. I bought almonds. Fit and Active granola cereal. Cucumbers. You ask my wife, how many times have I told you we go grocery shop, I'll meet you in the ice cream aisle? Too many. And sure enough, that's what she'll meet me. Don't even care. And I told her, because she told me when she went on her diet a year ago, I guess, she says, man, she says, foods taste better. I'm like, are you serious? Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you. When I went over on Thanksgiving, I tell my brother, he knows what's going on. And he says, I'll have to give you bad news, but you remember that cookie dough you ordered? It's in. Thanks, pal. So I have to go, I love cookie dough. I have to go pick that up. And Aaron's opening it up, eating it in front of me. Thanks, pal. You know how many of those I've had? 0. I don't have a desire. Last week I had a desire. I have no desire. I'm telling you, God has shown me so much this week. If we just trust Him. If we can truly just surrender it to Him. Because when I got home, the first thing I did, I opened up a jar of dill pickles. I said, I'm going to try one of these. It tastes so good. Foods are tasting so much better. And I still don't have a desire for all those sweets. I'm telling you something. I truly believe that. I was having a heart attack last Saturday night. But God said it's not time. God says, I don't care what the enemy's going to do. I have a purpose and a plan for your life. The enemy has been telling me for 2 years, look, you're done. You're nothing. Your time has expired. Your anointing is done. Your ministry is of nothing. And guess what this morning's test is? Are you still going to be excited and happy under 10 people in your presence? Yes, I am. Because it's not about numbers. It's about God. And I could stand here and tell you today, I feel great. I felt great ever since Monday morning at 8:30. I have not had one chest pain. I've had not hardly at all any cravings for sugar. I've had nothing but victory. My marriage, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being great, went from like about 8 or 9 to about a 73 million. I'm serious. Our marriage has just been absolutely incredible. I mean, awesome. Not that it wasn't awesome before, but like I said, 8, 9 to 73 million. I mean, what we're talking is just been phenomenal. I mean, things that used to get me angry and mad are just, it doesn't seem to be worth it anymore. Things that used to matter don't seem to matter. Things that were just like, oh man, look, it's snowing, seem to be a joy and blessing. All because my eyes have shifted. My eyes have shifted to just keep them on the Lord. My eyes have shifted. Things are awesome that used to just be began to appreciate God's hand in every area of my life. When before I used to take it for granted. Not that I take God for granted, but a lot of times when we just go through life, we begin to take God for granted. We begin to take just His blessings for granted. We begin to take things for granted. You know, like I told you, when we went out Black Friday. I love Black Friday. It's chaos. It's awesome. But what I love about the most, like I shared a little bit earlier, is just you can talk to people in line, they're not going to move. You can tell them about how great God is, and they're not going to move. And I got to tell some people about how great God is. I got to really just begin to appreciate, because you're staying in a mass of people. Wow, God, you look I just begin to see them not as masses of people, but masses of souls. Masses of souls. And everything just began to change. You know, my brother-in-law who's been frustrated with church and even been frustrated with God, and my father-in-law who's had a run-in with religion and frustrated with God, and his fiance is just she was born and raised Catholic, so I'm still not sure what her relationship has ever been. I got to hear the story of how great God is. And my brother-in-law, he's experienced God in mighty, powerful ways. He's experienced all those things, but then he got into a church that really just turned him off to all those things. But he can't deny what happened to me. See, God is using this to touch people's lives. God's been using it already in just a couple of days, just to touch lives. And you see, I'm not here to promote me. I'm just here to tell you how awesome God has been in 1 week. Life-changing. He changed my life. And I just want to challenge you to let Him change your life. I'm not praying anybody have a heart attack. That's not what I'm saying. That wasn't a great experience. The great experience is how God has been moving through that whole experience. So much so that I know I've been saying this for 5 years, that I was going to write a book, and I always get to page 1 and I delete. Well, I'm on about page 6 now. But I use real small font, and so it's probably about page 30 or 40 if I would put it in book format. And I really believe that God's going to do that for me too. And it was nothing like I thought it was going to be, but I really believe that God's going to continue that journey with me. And it's been coming to me really easy, and I'm excited about that. I really believe that God has turned a page in my life. I really believe that God has just turned another chapter in my life. And I believe that this is just the beginning of what He's going to do here. Just the beginning of what He's going to do here. Because I believe that even this morning is a test. In that, what are you going to do if there's just a handful? I'm going to keep doing what You told me to do, Lord. And I'm going to be excited about it. That all these things that have happened are just tests or temptations from the enemy just to see where I'm at on this journey. Because see, a lot of times when there's not too many people, it's frustrating. Today it's not. I can tell you it's not frustrating. I'm excited. Not eating sugar and all that, it may not sound like a lot to you, especially if you don't like it, but to me, it's a big deal. But to be able to turn it away and feel good about it, see, the devil was tempting me, but God was just showing me and setting me free. With God's anointing and power, I'm telling you, God is doing something incredible with it and through it. with my marriage, when I thought it was great, God said, no, look, it's going to be greater. And it's been awesome. I really want to go back to work tomorrow. I just want to stay with my wife and family because it's been that awesome. And this is how awesome God is. I asked him yesterday after morning, I said, God, you have done so much, and I almost hate to ask you for anything. You ever feel like that? And I says, but God, I'm just asking you to do one of two things. Can you give me some gas money or make my tank fill up? Either one. I mean, I am the king of driving on empty. I am king of that. I know that when the light goes on, I know how far I can get. 2 days. About 2 days. Depends how far I go. My wife hates it. I'm just used to it. I got home yesterday, got the mail. And what do you think is in there? An envelope, of course. It had my name on it. And they wrote it in such a way that you couldn't. It wasn't distinct. You know, everybody has their distinct handwriting, but this wasn't distinct to anybody that I ever met. No return address, nothing inside but gas money. I'm telling you, God is taking my faith. He's taking my relationship with Him to another level. To where fear isn't my friend. Worrying about tomorrow isn't part of my character. I'm just enjoying today. Living for God today. And I'm going to close up here, but I want to close up in some prayer with all of us maybe gathered around here. Because here's the thing. It was everybody praying. And maybe you said I wasn't praying, but that's okay. Because you didn't know. But people praying, when God lays something on your heart, they run with it. When God tells you to pray for somebody, run with it. Because if that pastor wouldn't have woken up and prayed and interceded, I might not be here today. If Rose didn't get up and start her prayer last week, maybe I won't be here today. I don't know. If my wife wasn't praying for me on the way home, maybe I wouldn't be here today. I don't know. But what I do know is that people were praying even when they didn't know what to pray for or why they were praying or it didn't make sense. But I'm telling you, when God lays on your heart, you have to be obedient because you never know how it's going to impact somebody else's life.